Thelonious Monk has one of the coolest names in jazz, and that's his real name. Um, so he was a jazz pianist from originally from North Carolina, but he seemed to spend most of his career in New York, as far as I can tell. His career spanned from the 1940s to 1973. He spent quite a while being unappreciated because he has a very odd style of playing the piano. Um, for example, a little nugget that I enjoyed in 1948, he was showcased to play a week at the Village Vanguard. Now, I'm picking up while doing these reviews that the Village Vanguard was a very prominent jazz venue in New York in the 50s and 60s, potentially as well, I think. So he did this, he was billed for this showcase for a week at the Village Vanguard, and nobody turned up at all, apparently. So he was recognised and hailed as a genius. He is one of the few jazz uh, musicians to have made it to the cover of Time magazine, and he's had a decent number of recordings.
Hi, my name's Dan, and this is a review of the album Monk's Music by Thelonious Monk. It was released in 1958 and is a jazz album by the Thelonious Monk Septet, effectively. At this point, this includes obviously Monk on piano, but other names that I knew here: Coleman Hawkins on tenor sax, John Coltrane on tenor sax, and Art Blakey on drums. That's some pretty big names in jazz. We've also got trumpet, bass, and alto sax, who were names that I didn't know. And it's instrumental, small band jazz, and there are 6 tracks here. There is one unusual track to start, which is just the brass, and it's arrangement of the hymn "Abide with Me." It's nice. In fact, it's probably my favourite track on the album. So this has been genre holders hard bop. I feel like I have a vague idea of what this means. It's one of the kind of subgenres in jazz. It tends to mean small band, it tends to mean instrumental, and it tends to mean quite improvisation based, but mostly bookended, by which I mean you play the tune, do a load of improv, and then play the tune again at the end, passing around solos. And on this album, drums and bass both get to have a go as well, which isn't always the case. Everything is held together by Art Blakey's hi hat here, which is just a constant tick, which is a really good thing that that's in there. Most of the tracks actually quite a bit. This area of jazz is sometimes quite a comfortable area for me. Now, my real love in jazz is more trad, so earlier stuff than this. But this is, I find it very listenable. It's not free jazz, it's not challenging, it's not massively intellectual in its approach, but quite chromatically loose in the solos. So we're getting to the point where there is some, level of freedom going on. I don't know if this is modal. I cannot spot what here modal. Some people can. Um, Monk's playing. Let's talk about this then. So I've commented on this before because I've reviewed a few of Monk's albums before. He has an unusual style of piano playing. He's got timing which feels weird. It's kind of off the time quite a lot. Sometimes when he's hitting the keys, he hits several adjacent notes as if his aim was bad. Now he's putting his fingers together to do this, or even like that. Um, but there is a dominant note in there, but sometimes the notes beside it are in there also. The first album of his that I reviewed was a solo album of piano, and I hated it. It was so ungainly. Then I heard him playing in a band, and I realized that in the band context, it works. It's just when it's on its own, it doesn't work. And somehow the things that he is doing are illustrating around the shape of the music. But with the rest of the band, there's more of the shape there, so it makes more sense. Um, Mostly, I would say it works on this album. I'm less keen on the track Ruby My Dear, where he's foregrounded and there's just a tiny bit of drums and quite a bit of sax in here as well, which does make a bit more sense of it than when it's solo. So he's got, yeah, I mean, I suppose a lot of people have gone much more deeply than I have gone into his style here. But so for most of these tracks, it works. He does, however, get at least zero point 0.1 in the score added for the album cover. I very rarely say that I do anything based on the album cover, and I don't often comment on the album covers, but he's sitting in this kind of child's pull along trolley, and he's not taking himself too seriously, is the point here. And I love that because at this point in time, jazz, 1958, jazz has become very serious and it's taking itself very seriously and becoming quite intellectual. And this shows a kind of whimsy that I applaud. So, great. Uh, Overall, quite enjoyed it. It mostly made me feel quite mellow. So the two outliers here are um, Ruby My Dear, just looking for the name again, which I didn't like as much, and Abide With Me, which isn't really jazz, but I did like quite a lot. So that's what I think of this album. I'd love to know what you think, so please talk to me through the comments. But that's it from me for now.